Welcome to Fieldsports Britain. Coming up, I meet a man who tangles with a big snake.
You pull him out of the hole like a giant robin would pull an earthworm out of the ground.
We've got Hunting YouTube, we've got New Stump, we've got Hello Charlie. First, I've come here to Texas to find out why shooting the world's rarest animals is good for them. Fausto Ettiria is one of many landowners in the vast space of South Texas who loves his wildlife, loves his big game hunting, loves his ranch, and has found a way of putting all those three things together.
We've got Scimitar Oryx from North Africa, we've got the Nilgai, we've got waterbuck from Africa, and we're especially proud of the Scimitar Oryx because the Oryx came from the deserts of North Africa, and it was almost extinct. And some very wise men brought some of them to the United States and brought them to Texas, and we have basically saved the herd, saved the species from extinction by having them here in Texas. We've got thousands of them now here in Texas. Maybe someday we can take some back to Africa.
They do things big in Texas. Game is big, ranches are big. The King Ranch is more than 800,000 acres. And if you appreciate old jokes, only the kangaroos are small.
The first exotics that I know of that came to Texas was back in the 30s, the mid-30s, when Bob Clayburgh, who was head of the King Ranch at that time, brought some Nilgai in, which is a large antelope from India, and he brought them in from the San Diego Zoo and turned them loose on his ranch. At that time, we were in very severe drought conditions, and he was looking for another source of protein. So he wanted to turn to an animal that could exist in desert-type country, because it was so hot down here and so dry down here. So they felt that the Nilgai would do good here in Texas, which of course it has done. There are thousands of them in Texas now.
The money from the oil and gas industry helps, but without an income from hunting, keeping these large animals makes no financial sense.
No.
That wasn't a shooter, was it?
Yeah.
He was?
Yeah.
But you just can't go out and save the world without producing some income to do it with. And what the hunting does is it's a very fine equation. And what you have to do is you have to have a certain amount of animals killed every year, or you have too many animals and you overgraze the ranch. It's very similar to the cattle business.
And does it make environmental sense having exotics here? Well, yes. They seem to rub along just fine with the local population.
Of course, in drought areas, when we just came out of a drought months ago, we had a die-off of white-tailed deer. We had a die-off of Nilgai. Luckily, we didn't have a die-off of any of our African animals. And maybe they're more sturdy than our animals here, our native animals in Texas.
So let's put this conservation into practice and go Nilgai stalking with Fausto's guest Chris, helped out by Fausto's son-in-law Brad and Fausto's staff member Tony. First stop is the target where Chris can check the rifle. Next stop is a Nilgai from the comfort of a purpose-built South Texas hunting vehicle. Nilgai are not easy to get near to. You will see most Nilgai as a brown blur if they are calves or cows, or a grey blur if they are bulls, galumphing across the track in front of the vehicle. Eventually we get to one we reckon we can stop and stalk into. There's an exciting few minutes, but by the time Chris and Brad are in position, the animal moves on.
The Nilgai won that one.
There is a general presumption against feral hogs in Texas. These are not pigs. They are peccary, called locally javelina. These are pigs, and once again, Chris and Brad are out of the car and into a tricky stalk. The wind is not with us, and when you are trying to walk in quietly, this brush country has similar properties to a brass band. It's a clean miss. The bullet goes just an inch over the top of the nearest animal and they need no further encouragement to make a run for it. But you don't get dispirited in Texas. There is simply too much to see here. Texans love their bird shooting, or wing shooting as they call it. There are mourning doves and there are Rio Grande turkeys. We are not out after these today, but it is a joy to see them. As for the Nilgai, we are beginning to wonder whether we will ever get close to a takeable bull. Then Fausto brakes sharply and Chris levels the rifle.
Did you hit him?
Nope.
I didn't?
I didn't hear it.
I didn't hear it either.
Well, they are wrong, as this action replay shows. That's a 300 Win Mag round, and this tough antelope doesn't flinch.
Definitely, he's got, and it's bright pink also. Right here, look.
Yeah.
Right here. Right here.
Yep.
We find the animal 20 yards into the mesquite.
1, 2, 3.
Well, I've been looking forward to this hunt because the Nilgai is known as a very tough animal to hunt and hard to bring down, and they're also excellent to eat. And so I am really looking forward to getting this fellow on the grill.
They're probably one of the most difficult animals to bring down in Texas. They've got a thick hide, and I've seen these animals run for a mile or so before they're brought down. Look at that. But the backstraps are going to be wonderful. And he's a nice color too and has good horns. So you've got yourself a nice trophy, Vanna.
Thank you very much, Fausto. I appreciate it.
Do you want the bill now or after dinner?
Well, I know you started writing it up when we found the drops of blood.
Yeah.
Thanks to the hunting business, ranchers in South Texas have saved not just the Scimitar Oryx, but the addax and the dama gazelle from extinction. Texas is now home to a quarter of the world's population of Nilgai, and Pakistan is this year reopening both Nilgai and black buck hunting. Of course, the antis hate this logical way of saving species. They try to put a spanner in the works by getting their friends in Washington to add new layers of laws on ownership and hunting of these animals in Texas. They would prefer tourists to come and look at the animals, not shoot them.
We're too far away from America. If we were close to Disney World or close to Disneyland in Los Angeles, we would conduct tours to see the wildlife. But we're sort of out of the way here in Kennedy County, Texas. This is basically ranch land. They're not more than 200 people in the entire county.
It costs thousands of pounds to come and, as they say here, harvest a bull. But without hunting, these ranchers would go back to cattle, and even local species could find themselves walking off into the sunset. Well, from one bunch of endangered species to David on the Fieldsports Channel News Stump.
This is Fieldsports Channel News. Australian education charity Boys Forward Institute recommends crabbing, hunting, camping and fishing to reconnect with nature. It's running an advertisement supporting the reintroduction of shooting to Australian schools. A man from Texas who paid $350,000 to hunt an endangered black rhino has had to employ full-time security. Corey Knowlton told local television stations that he'd received death threats against himself and his family. Money raised by the auction will go to protecting and conserving black rhinos, but many still find the idea of shooting a rhino offensive. More white rhinos were illegally killed in South Africa in 2013 than in any previous year, according to government statistics. A total of 1,004 animals were poached, representing a 50% increase over the previous 12 months. Campaigners say that a growing demand for rhino horn from markets in Vietnam and China is fueling the killing. A mother of two has put the safety of her children ahead of her hunting. In the US state of Florida, a mother's been arrested after police say she left her two children, aged 7 and 9, inside her car in near freezing temperatures so that she could go feral boar hunting. Kayla Shavers has been charged with child neglect. And finally, a couple of wildlife stories. Here are some lucky chamois spotted by our own Mark Gilchrist, who is resident in the French Alps for the winter. Chamois lovers will be delighted to know that all the animals escaped the avalanche. And here is a python swallowing an antelope whole that's doing well on YouTube. Filmed in Botswana's Moremi Game Reserve, the 8-foot African rock python is able to swallow an impala. You are now up to date with Fieldsports Channel News. Stalking the stories, fishing for facts.
Thank you, David. Now let's see what the rest of you have been up to. It is Hello Charlie. Here's what the world's up to this week.
Hello Charlie, Richard here. Thought you might like to see this one. We're out last night for the first night's foxing, out with my mate Ben, who works for Edgar Brothers. My 1.7 Hornet, Savage Arms, my ND 750 and my Tatlite 800 IR lamp. Saw two foxes, managed to sweep one of them back in, and this is what we got, black fox.
Hello Charlie, Andrew here from just outside Huntley in New Zealand. out to do some possum hunting and rabbits and goats overnight. Thanks for a fabulous show and talk to you soon.
Hello Charlie, Mark Stratton here again. Just thought you might like to see our gamekeeper stuck in the mud and us trying to pull him out.
Hello Charlie, Stephen and Eva here doing a bit of reloading for the 223.
It's not going too well.
Bye Charlie.
Bye, Charlie.
Send us your own Hello Charlie. Film yourself on your mobile phone, just a sentence saying Hello Charlie, who you are and what you're up to. Then share it or email it via YouTube, Facebook, Dropbox, or you send it, you name it, to charlie@fieldsportschannel.tv. Now, Nilgai Chris was in Africa in 2011. He tells me how he sets about killing a python.
I was in northern Cameroon and I was in the Sahel up around Garoua. I was hunting primarily for Lord Derby's eland, and after I was successful in getting the eland, we had a little extra time in camp, and that's when I came up with the idea of hunting for python. The trackers go out, they look for a python track, and apparently the python track goes in a straight line. The python goes by caterpillar motion instead of an S-shaped track like other snakes do. And then you look at the width of the track in the dust, and that tells you the girth of the snake. If you're going to dig them out of the ground, it helps to have a lot of strong backs to help you with digging the holes. The first thing you have to do is you clear the mouth of the hole, and you peer in with a flashlight, and you see which direction the hole goes once it disappears under the surface. And then you try to intercept that hole with a vertical shaft coming down from the surface. You take your next bearing, and by doing this repetitively, and you may end up digging 10 holes, you slowly work your way to the end of the line, and hopefully the python is curled up in its sleeping den. Well, the first surprise is that there were more than one snake in the hole. And the first snake that came out so quickly we never even knew what it was. It just shot past the shoulder of the fellow looking in the hole. There was a younger python in the hole that was about 8 feet long, and so we had to sort out the two snakes, and we were successful in finding the bigger python in there. I was concerned when I saw that the way they were trying to determine the direction of the hole was taking, the only way they could do that was to take a fellow by the heels and lower him head first down the hole, and he could peer upside down up the hole with his flashlight, and that concerned me. So I had a small camera like a GoPro, and I taped it to the end of a stick with a little light, and then we just ran the stick down the hole until we located the python, and then we finished our vertical shaft. Up until this point, none of the fellows digging the hole explained anything to me about what my role was going to be. Frankly, we didn't speak the same language anyway, and the professional hunter was very vague about this. He said, when the snake comes out, you must kill it. And I said, okay, and I had a stick handy, and I was going to whack it on the head. And as soon as I saw it go past the bottom of one of the vertical shafts, I quickly realized a stick wasn't going to get the job done. So I had a 375, I took the scope off, and I went to the entrance at the surface, and I waited for the snake to come to me. When the snake's head came to the surface, he looked around, saw all of us waiting on him, and he decided that he would go back down the hole now. And so when he did, the only way for me to get a shot was to go to a vertical shaft and lower myself down in the shaft. I braced my feet on either side of the hole, and I waited for the snake to go between my legs. And then when he did, I shot him behind the head with the rifle. It's very similar to putting several pounds of baking flour on top of a stick of dynamite and then lowering your face down and setting it off. I was covered in dust, and after the shot went off, it took us probably 30 seconds to clear the air before we could even see what had happened. We enlarged the hole a little bit, and then we got a stick underneath him that was shaped like a hook. And then you just bring a loop up to the surface, and then you work your way to the tail, and everyone grabs the tail, and then you pull him out of the hole like a giant robin would pull an earthworm out of the ground. It was 16.5 feet, so that would be, I suppose, about 5 meters. It was a lot of snake. It just kept coming out of the hole. I had this vision of a big reel down there, and they just kept rolling it off like a garden hose. It's a big piece of meat. This particular snake weighed 230 pounds, so they have it had about a 16-foot tenderloin. When we carried it back to camp, it was skinned, and then the meat was all portioned out to everyone who worked to get the snake out of the hole. And I ate some myself that night. It was white meat and a little tough and chewy, but very tasty. I found it to be like alligator tail.
Now let's go to the wider world of hunting and shooting on YouTube. It is Hunting YouTube. This is Hunting YouTube, which aims to show the best hunting and shooting videos that YouTube has to offer. Viewer John Clements recommends pheasant shooting in Yorkshire by ace photographer Jonathan McGee. He says a little pointedly that it is the opposite of the Headhunter Chronicles lion hunting film we put up last week. Shared by the Daily Mirror newspaper no less, this is footage of how falcons catch their prey by the Company of Biologists. It shows how falcons pursue prey by keeping the image of that prey in the same place on their retina during the pursuit as they close in. A different kind of feathered quarry now. Turkey Hunting 2013 double-bearded gobbler from Primetime Hunting has Upbow Hunter Outdoors boss Todd Freeman taking a big gobbler with the bow. Sounds like a foreign language. Staying on bows, deer hunting awesome multi-view bow hunt, my 100th video upload is not far off the truth. The field archer gets experimental with different POVs as he goes out after deer. Summer Hunting 2013 is another deer stalking film, but this time in the southern Alps of New Zealand, and it is red stags he is after, not whitetail. Now we get classy and go heli hunting. Pork Chopper's aviation promises the hunt of a lifetime in this, well, promotional film. Still, good effort. At the other end of the economic scale, slingshot hunting squirrel killed by Bill Hayes has him after a squirrel that's acting strange, staying exposed and doing a lot of barking, putting up challenges to any other squirrel around even though there aren't any, so Bill kills it. Finally, I can't not mention the SHOT Show. I met up with the Quinn boys in Las Vegas, and here's their take on day one of the show. You can follow them through the whole event in different films. Weird beards, but good guys. You can click on any of these films to watch them. If you are missing the fishing films and the airgun films, watch our new shows Airheads and Fishing Britain. If you have a YouTube film you would like us to pop into the weekly top 8, send it in via YouTube or email me the link charlie@fieldsportschannel.tv. If none of those took your fancy, what about our programmes?
Welcome to Fishing Britain. This week, we find out what a spod and a spom looks like.
In Fishing Britain last week, Howell Morgan took the 120-minute challenge to try and tie a fly and catch a fish on a fishery in under 2 hours. And Thursday this week, it's our new airgunning show, Airheads. We're protecting red squirrels in Cumbria. We're at the SHOT Show in the United States with top TV hunting star Jim Shockey. And Darren produces and directs the most expensive ratting film ever made. It's 7 PM, it's Thursday night. Well, we are of course back next week. If you are watching this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button that's somewhere around the screen, or you can click here to go to our Google Plus page, all sorts of possibilities there, or go to our website fieldsportschannel.tv, where you can click to like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter, or pop your email address into the constant contact box and we'll send you our weekly newsletter. This has been Fieldsports Britain from the United States. Goodbye, good hunting, good shooting and good fishing.